So welcome back. Last time we did the Mars in 1 to 4 houses, and today I'm going to discuss further after that. So let's see. I'm making another birth chart here. Okay. In this birth chart, let's put number 8 here this time. Let's say this is the Scorpio Lagna this time. What happens when Mars comes into the fifth house now? The fifth house, let me just remind it back again. The fifth house is the house of your love and affair, romance, your happiness in life, your past life deeds, what you did in the past life are seen from here. That what the results you get in here are reflected in the fifth house. Fifth house is a house of speculation. It's a house of your creativity. It's a house of your progeny, kids. So every time when you look into the kids, if somebody asks you about when I'm gonna have the kids, what about my studies, what about my speculation business, if I'm gonna invest some money in the share market, you have to consider the fifth house. Okay, so fifth house is very very important, and this house also indicates your studies. Study, I would say technically like a graduate study, like bachelor's, bachelor of arts, bachelor of science, bachelor of law, anything like which covers the bachelor degree is seen from the fifth house. That's what I have seen in numerous cases. This house, when Mars comes into this house, it makes a person too much logical thinker. Why? Because fifth house is also your house of creativity, and when Mars comes into it, Mars is a straightforward person. Mars is a straightforward soldier, one directional person. So that person does not depend on anything what you say and the person will accept it. No, he will find the clue behind it. He will try to find the reality behind it, that what's the real reason for the any concept he's being told. For example, if you say that moon is that much miles from the earth, he will not accept it until he will know the real calculation of it. So that's the major thing. This house also controls your part of your mind. Your attitude also is seen from the fifth house. When the Mars is here, it makes a person little aggressive, short temper sometimes. Okay, it affects the creativity. It makes you more passionate about your creativity. It makes you more passionate about having kids. It makes you more passionate about your kids. Once you have kids here in your life, you'll be more passionate about them. You'll take care for them. You'll always be there for their help. You'll always be protecting them like a soldier. That's what Mars does in the fifth house. It also gives a person a motivation or energy to study. But again, it depends that what kind of sign the Mars is sitting in, what kind of aspect it does it has. If it has a good aspects and good placement, it's going to give a good skills in the graduation study, in the bachelor level study, and the person will excel. If it is badly placed, it's going to ruin its mind. It's going to ruin its all attitude of the person, and then the person might suffer from the um, lesser quality of the education here, or will suffer to complete the education at least at this level. Okay, now what happens when Mars goes into the sixth house? Sixth house, as I want to remind you again, the sixth house is a house of debts. It's a house of your everyday life things, everyday job. When you go out of the home, when you step out of the door, whom you meet with, what kind of person you're going to deal with, your everyday problems of the job or anything you do is seen from the sixth house. The sixth house is also the house of debts. It's also the house of your accidents, hurdles in life, competition in everyday life. So the sixth house is pretty much scary house. And when we look and talk about the sixth house, we mainly consider the Mars in it. Why? Because Mars is the very famous placement in the sixth house. Why? Because Mars, when present in the sixth house, it makes the person under the debt. So that kind of person should avoid taking debts. If the Mars is placed good, then the person will get a lot of debts from the people, but he would be able to pay back. But if it is badly placed, or like a neutral, or like a so-so sign, so much power, not enough power, then the person, if takes a debt from somebody, takes a loan from the bank, takes a loan from somebody else, then he will have a hard time to pay it back. Also in this house of Mars, if it is badly placed, gives accidents, so that person should drive very carefully. Okay. Otherwise also, the placement of the Mars in this house can give some kind of accidental problems, like you're driving and you just touched the death and you came back. That's what happens sometimes, even if the Mars is right placed here, because Mars is doing its job. Doesn't matter if the Mars is good or bad, Mars is doing its work here. Also, Mars sitting from here aspects the Lagna. How? Because the Mars, as I told you before, the Mars has an aspect has of 4th, 7th and 8th position. Mars always look at the 4th position from itself, the 7th position and the 8th position. So if I count the 8th position, it will be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 and 8th. So 8th will be Lagna. Lagna is the person itself, the own body. Mars is a soldier. Mars is a fiery planet. Mars is a weapon. Mars is attack. So it's gonna attack the person here on the Lagna, and the energy is emerging out of the 6th house. So 6th house problems are going towards a person basically. So that person also, we can say, taking the debts from the 6th house, and the Mars is affecting the 1st house also, and it is directly connected to the native and the debt. You're gonna learn this later on, that how you correlate the houses. Now let's move on to the next house, 7th house. 7th house is a house of marriage. It's a house of partnership. It is a house of your legal bindings. It's a house of your other people in the world whom you're going to deal with. 7th house is the extension of the 6th house. When 6th house promotes, it becomes the 7th house. How? When you deal with the lot of hurdles every day, when you deal with the people every day, when you have a competition and you overcome it, then your energy moves on to the 7th house, which is a house of the vast public, the big public, where you have to stand and make your own efforts to prove yourself. And it is also cause of house of partnership in the business, in the life. Marriage house, marriage is also a partnership. So when you get married to your spouse, you're basically making an agreement between each other, so that you guys gonna support each other in goods and bad times and all that kind of stuff. It's from the 7th house. 7th house is also your sexual ability. All right. As this house is the natural ruler of the Venus sign, so Venus is also a sexual planet. It's also a very feminine planet, attractive planet, and beauty. So everything is related here. Okay. So what happened? Mars comes here. The first of all, I'll tell you that it is Manglik, 7th house. 1, 4, 7, 8 and 12 houses. If the Mars is present, I told you, is called Manglik. So here's the person is Manglik. But don't worry, too many Mangliks are there. There's nothing to worry about if the Mars is placed here. It's like a general placement of the Mars here. But if the Mars is badly placed, again I'll tell you, if the Mars is badly placed and have some bad aspects of like Rahu or Saturn sitting with the Mars or aspecting with the full force on the Mars, then it's gonna give problems in the married life. The person, when the dasha of this Mars and the antra dasha of that Rahu or Ketu or any other bad planet sitting with the Mars will come, the problems are gonna pop out. This house will be activated and start gonna give the problems to the native time to time, as long as that dasha is running. So that's how you study the 7th house, or any other house you study about the Mars. Now This person has a Mars here will aspect directly to the Lagna. Okay, now Lagna is again aspected by Mars straight by the seventh aspect. This also make the person very energetic, possessive, uh, person who likes to do anything at any cost. I mean, the person, if getting an aspect from the Mars, and if Mars is good place, then the person will be a very calm person, but will have a fire inside to achieve the goals. But if the person has a bad Mars place or like an average, then it might turn the person into a violent person. And again, if there are bad placements in the Lagna with the Mars and etc etc, that person can be physically violent also. All right. So let's move on to the next house. Mars here, eighth house. Now, what is eighth house? Eighth house is a house of sudden calamity. It is a house of deep things. The house of, it's called a well. Everything which goes deep inside is seen from the eighth house. The mysteries are being found from the eighth house. Occult subjects, mystical subjects, astrology, tantra, mantra, yantra, any damn thing you talk about is seen from the eighth house. The eighth house is the main city of these things. So when the Mars is placed here, it creates the person as a more passionate person to find out the truth about the hidden subjects. Curiosity about knowing that. Why? Because Mars is a curiosity. Mars is a soldier, and soldier always has a curiosity about knowing the enemy, about knowing what is behind the scene, what is behind that tree, what is behind that rock. Maybe my enemy there. So let's hit the target. So if the Mars is here, the person will be more possessive about achieving those all mystical qualities in the person if the Mars is present here. It is also the growth of the marriage life. Seventh house is the house of marriage. Eighth house is the growth of marriage life. Always remember, any house, the next house will be its growth. So seventh house is the marriage. Growth of the marriage is seen from the eighth house. So if this house is good placed, the planets are good placed, or seventh lord is placed here, even then the person will have a good married life, but it should be good placed. Now if Mars is placed here, again the person is Manglik. Okay, but you don't need to worry about it. As I told you, there are numerous people who are Manglik and they are living a very good life. Now let's come down to the ninth house. Okay, maybe I do the ninth house in the next video. Up to here is good. I don't have enough time right now.